Everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of The Stash. Report from the Stash Project. Today is February 17th, 2020, and we have announcements and releases and kits. Oh my. So we have the May 2020 announcements from Aoshima, as well as some kit releases but on both sides, domestic and import. I guess the thing that is I've seen popping up most right now is some very uh, varying levels of concern about the coronavirus outbreak and how it will affect us as modelers in terms of getting our stuff. And it's sort of a twofold problem, depending on how you look at classify a problem. Obviously, for literally tens of thousands of people who are infected with the virus and several thousand people's families who have passed on from the virus, it's really quite a different category of problem than, oh, I can't get my model kit this month. So that being said, the problems are sort of twofold. Right now, it's somewhat difficult to get things from China or to send things to China, as there is a dramatic cut in airline flights going in and out, obviously. Pretty much, I think everybody's seen some news to that effect. There was a lot of rumblings this week when several postal authorities were saying they were not going to accept any more parcels going to China. And again, that all has to do with, again, the airlines and their lack of flying and the fact that there is just no capacity for it. A lot of people consider like air cargo to go on like air cargo planes, but for the most part, mail, in the sense of like small parcels and things that do not require the inside of an airliner body as a cargo vessel container, like jet engines and big, bulky, somewhat heavy items that would be shipped by air cargo. Most mail, most parcels are shipped in the hold of passenger flights. And because there are, of course, very few, if any, passenger flights, depending on what airline you're talking about, there is an amazing reduction in cargo capacity going in and out of China right now. So ordering things from Hong Kong, Macau, from mainland China can be faced with delays. I've seen various people saying that they're trying to order things directly from China and their money is being refunded, and people are telling them they can't ship out. From what I can see, it looks like Hobby Easy and some places in Hong Kong are still shipping, at least on a limited basis, that they can get their mail out with. Hong Kong, it has some cases of the virus, but it's not obviously on mainland China. It is an island, several islands unto itself, but their mail not quite as affected as mainland China's mail is. So there's that issue. Then the other issue comes into delays in terms of manufacturing. A lot of the factories that were down for Chinese New Year's have simply just not come back up yet. We saw Round 2 put out a notice to their distributors saying that they are not expecting to get kits again until April, which doesn't necessarily immediately impact what we would normally be talking about here, because February's kits are already out there. We're going to talk about them in a couple of seconds here. The March kits, more than likely, are already here, or at least the ones that they will distribute as far as what they're going to consider to be their March kits are already here. They probably would have been on the water prior to Chinese New Year's, Lunar New Year's, how you want to determine that holiday. They would have been on the water already prior to getting here. We're talking about a couple of Revell kits that they're saying are going to be out at the end of March, early April. More than likely, those kits are either already on the water and are being delivered to Revell like as we speak, or Revell already has them on hand in Illinois already. We talk about global shipping of that nature. Again, here's 22 years of logistics experience coming in. It's going to take a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, for something to leave the Far East and then get here, because as much as we like to think, oh, well, Revell's shipping a container full of models and it's going to get here immediately, Revell's container full of models is on a boat full of other containers, and depending on how many stops that ship has left before it actually leaves out of the China, Indonesia, Malaysia area, it could be they could have 7 to 10 more days of port calls on that side of the ocean, and then they're going to sail all the way across. In the case of Revell in the past, and in round two, I believe currently they're getting their containers in through the port of Baltimore, and then they have to be either trained or trucked from Baltimore to Illinois, and then distributed from there. Now, yeah, I know round two is in Indiana, but other than shipping them through South Bend and pull them off the rail there, more than likely they're getting railed as far as being taken off the boat and put on a train and sent up on a train from Baltimore to the Chicago area and then put on a truck and driven back to South Bend, because at that point you're not talking about an hour and a half worth of drive. At least looking at the former bankruptcy papers of Habaco, that was how they were doing it. They had quite a bit of money that they owed to one of the larger container trucking companies in Chicago back when they went bankrupt. So, you're talking about from the time they are put on the boat until the time they get here being possibly as long as 3 to 3.5 weeks. Mobius's are probably a little bit less because they're going to more than likely be shipping their stuff into the port of Long Beach or the port of California, or port of Los Angeles rather, in California, because of course Mobius is now owned by Pegasus, which is out there in LA. So they're not having to get their model kits sent to Florida like they were when Mobius was first started with their automotive kits prior to the sale to Pegasus. So all that being said, more than likely, any delays we would see in terms of kit releases, especially for United States companies, outside of Salvinos JR, of course, because they're making their stuff here in the United States, and any kits that Round 2 or Revell would still have the tooling for here in the United States, you might end up seeing that in the summer rather than right away, because again, those kits that are going to be distributed between now and say the beginning of April are more than likely already here, or they were on their way over before the kerfuffle started, because from doing a little bit of reading into it, because, again, this doesn't directly affect my job per se, but, anything that hiccups the transportation network is something I'm interested in due to what I do. From what everything I've been reading, they have been allowing boats from China, or who had Chinese port of call, to dock in the United States. They're just not allowing the crews to disembark from the ship. They're unloading them and turning them around and sending them back out without letting the crews on the ship come off. So, there is still container traffic going. Now, whether or not there's going to be a gap in that is hard to tell, because again, there's going to become a point where there won't be anything left in China to ship because nothing's been manufactured at this point. So, again, if you're talking about round 2 not expecting kits until April, that would probably mean they would expect them to start shipping again in early March. And you're talking about possibly a month or two's worth of delays that are going to start hitting in like May or June. But it's not like any of us are really sitting around going, oh, damn, I ain't got nothing to do until those model kits get here. So hopefully that'll just sort of, ease some concerns. I saw a thing this week where someone was saying that due to the delays, we're not going to get kits until like Halloween or Christmas again, which is just absolutely ridiculous. The number of cases of the virus, at least currently, is trending down. It's popping up in other countries because people have there's that 2.5, 3 week incubation period, so you're seeing things flare up in other countries, but the actual number of infections in China seems to be going down, which is a great thing. Not just for us, but just in general. Nobody needs a global epidemic right now for anything, with everything else that's going on in life. But obviously, they're going to want to get everybody back to work as soon as it's safely possible to do so. So the idea that we wouldn't see things until Christmas would just be ludicrous, because you're talking about there would be nothing for back to school shopping and things like that. I don't think a lot of people who are not in retail, now I did a lot of direct store deliveries in my career, they're not in retail, don't realize how far in advance that stuff is made and shipped before it's distributed, right? Because you're talking about back to school stuff like book bags and pens, pencils, and all that stuff that's not made here in the United States. That stuff is delivered downstream into stores, usually 2 to 3 months in advance, so that the stores have it, so the stores can start putting it out this is the thing we see people complain about all the time about Hobby Lobby. What is it? Christmas starts the day after Labor Day. Well, in order for Christmas to start the day after Labor Day, that means that the store has to be reset over Labor Day weekend, which means all that stuff has to be in the store by the end of August. And that means it's already in Hobby Lobby's main warehouses in Oklahoma. So you're talking about things that have to come into the port of California and then probably get put on a train out to Oklahoma City for the most part. You're talking about stuff there that, again, has to be in the United States by mid-August at the latest. And you're talking about stuff that has to now leave China by the end of July to get there by August. There's a little bit of a leeway there. So it's, again, not that big a deal. And plus, when you consider also the fact of the 2 to 3 levels of shipping that are required on the United States end of things, take into consideration that if a container comes into Baltimore, it has to get offloaded off the ship and then either put onto a truck or a train. That's going to take a couple of 3 days until there's a truck or train available to take it, because it's not like expedited freight where it has to be there right away. And then it has to go up to Chicago, which is either a day and a day plus drive, or probably 2 days on a train. It has to get taken off the. If it's taken on the truck, it could deliver straight to Revell. But if it's on a train, then it has to be taken off in the train yard in Chicago, and then another truck has to come get it after a couple more days, and then it has to be taken to the warehouse that Revell has. It's a third-party warehouse. Revell doesn't do their own thing anymore, obviously, because Habico was their warehouse. And then it has to be taken off the truck. It has to be broken down. It has to be inventory, checked for damages and everything else. Then it has to be split into its separate shipments. They're going to go to your big frontline wholesalers like Stevens and Hobby Time and Hobby Time USA and Hobby Lobby and things like that. Those all have to get shipped out. In some cases, when you talk about Hobby Lobby, that's truckloads of stuff. It all has to be shipped out to wherever it's going. And then once it gets to those warehouses, it has to be, again, say, unloaded, broken down, taken apart, checked for damages, and then split into even smaller orders. Hobby Lobbies, obviously, now we're talking about store-level deliveries. And Stevens is going to, start delivering out to hobby shops and second-level vendors, like, the guy who is your local plastic model club's plastic pusher, right? Every model club has one guy who can order like a half a case of models cheaper than you could actually order it at the hobby shop yourself. And then it has to get shipped down from there. So if you're talking about a kit that's going to be on the shelves of your hobby shop the second or third Monday of March, it's probably left the warehouse left the manufacturer's warehouse, if you will, the beginning of March, which means they had to have it like a week or two before. So March kits have to already be here if they're going to come out, because they would have to have already been inventoried and shipped down to the next level. So appreciate the fact that there is a little bit of, on a large scale. Your local hobby shop, yeah, he's getting his case of stuff through UPS, and that's, he's getting it 7 to 10 days after he ordered it, or less, depending on what kind of shipping you're using. But when you're talking about on the truckload level, that stuff has to be sorted and segregated, as the warehousing term would go. So anyway, that's enough about that. But I've seen some very interesting panicky tones taken this week, and it's certainly a concern, but it is not a oh my God, we're not going to see any models out of any model company until the end of the year. It's just plain flat out ridiculous. So speaking of kit releases and planned stuff and whatnot, and realize that even for the Japanese companies, a lot of the Japanese companies, their kits are made in China now at this point too. There's very few Japanese companies that are still doing their own tooling and production in Japan. Like Tamiya, for example, they use the Philippines and have been for quite a while now. Now, granted, the Philippines aren't affected by coronavirus the way a lot of the other Asian countries and areas are, but still. Even like Tamiya, big, huge Tamiya, they don't produce their kits in Japan, and they haven't for quite a while. So, at any rate, Aoshima for May of 2020, reissue of the 1990 Toyota Cresta 2.5 Super Lucent, the 1988 Toyota Mark II Grande, the 2012 Subaru BRZ, the Liberty Walk, Liberty Work, Ken and Mary, what do they call the Shodai version, which is a mid-70s GTR with a race car appearance to it. The 2007 Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 10 C West, 2002 Daihatsu Copen Pandora EVA 2, and then adding more to the new version of the supercar line. You have the reissue of the 2009 Lamborghini Murcielago Superveloce and its PE set. And then there's one kit. All those things are just reissues, right? The Mercy is being dumped into a new supercar box, but beyond that, all those things have already come out. There's a little bit of me at this point where I'm looking at these kit releases from Aoshima, and the fact that we're not getting any really from Fujimi is sort of putting me into a snooze festival for some of these companies, because yeah, okay, I realize I have more kits than most people do, but all of these for the last 3 months have been reissues of stuff that were reissued in the past year and a half. And can we get some new stuff? The newest thing, the one thing on this distribution list for May, is a reissue of the 1998 Mazda RX-7 FD3S police car. Now that was something that had been put into reissue already. This is being dubbed Radar Patrol. There were 7 Mazda RX-7s in FD3Ss anyway, that were distributed out to the various prefecture police departments, specifically for high-speed pursuit. Really, I don't know how much pursuing is necessarily going on in Japan, but high-speed radar patrol. That's something that Mazda has done back since the Mazda Cosmo. You may recall there's a Hasegawa kit of the Mazda Cosmo highway patrol car. So at any rate, there were 7 of these distributed throughout the country, and this is going to get a new radar piece that actually fits into the light bar, and then also decals to represent each of those 7 specific police cars, which granted is very basic. If you've noticed from any of the police car kits from Japan, period, all of the cars are black and white, with just the lettering on the car telling you what police department it services. So, the decals are very, sort of minor to this, but they are doing decals specific to this. And that's really it as far as, what they're doing. And again, when you look at what their kits that we're expecting just in the next couple of releases, there are no kits that I can see in March that have anything done to them. They're just straight reissues. April, the Honda Mugen Turbo Silhouette's a long time ago since it was released last kind of deal, but that's a reissue. And then, there's another version of the MP10 Taxi, which again is a reissue with a couple of different parts and stuff like that. It's very, very thin over there lately, and I'm not exactly sure what they're working on. Fujimi at least has the excuse that they are really pounding the living daylights out of 1/72nd scale military kits right now. But I know that from some of the sort of after reports of the Nuremberg Toy Fair, we heard that they're planning to do a lot of stuff in 2020, and I hope we're going to start seeing that stuff in terms of the Shizuoka Hobby Show in May, because right now that stuff hasn't shown up in the first half of 2020. So, all right, so let's talk about kit releases this week, and we have a number of kit releases to talk about, actually, and we have actually a few domestic kit teases to talk about as well. So we showed you from N&L West the pictures that had the Chevy Love pickup truck, and then the 29 Ford was peeking out of one corner of it, and then there was a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon peeking out of the other side of it. So we finally got a good image provided by Revell, because this kit is one of the 3 kits that they plan to distribute in late March, early April. The other one being the Chevy Love pickup truck and the 29 Ford. So you see the sort of the box art and what you're getting here. It looks like they've included factory stock wheels. The tires are still a little day 2. Those weren't, I don't think those are technically really the Rubicon wheels that you got out of the factory. It's got a stalker looking front bumper with the fog lights. It's still got the big snorkel air cleaner, which is out of the Tomb Raider kit, but the fender flares are not quite as bushwhackery pronounced as the Tomb Raider kit. The roll cage is more of a factory stock roll cage compared to the sort of the triangled off tube roll bar that was in the Tomb Raider kit. I'm assuming that the rear end of this is probably a little more factory stock as well. So it's not quite what you would pick up off the showroom floor per se, but it is certainly something a lot closer to a factory stock Jeep Rubicon than anything we would have gotten out of this kit since it was originally done in 2004. And what we're being told is all of these parts have always been in this kit. They were tooled up in 2004, but for whatever reason, Revell chose never to actually utilize them. So there is that. There is one picture that's floating around out there online of the Love, the 29 Ford, and the Jeep in a collage, all three of them in one picture. And then there's a little Made in the USA sticker beside the Chevy Love pickup truck, which then got the internet rampantly speculating that Revell had retooled all of their kits and not retooled, but reshored all their kits into the United States and all this, and it was not like that. When these kits when this promotion stuff was put out by Revell, the pictures were separate, and obviously the Made in the USA logo was then just separately attached to the Chevy Love pickup truck, because that tooling is here in the United States as part of the tooling that was in Elk Grove Village. It's now in Chicago Heights. Once again, proving that Blitz obviously did not sell all of the US-based tooling like that rumor likes to go. But then I saw somebody, again, they said that they had, all the kits are being made in the United States. Somebody clearly got a hold of them and corrected them. They then blamed Revell USA for putting out a confusing picture and not knowing where the kits are, and proceeded to say that those kits would then be produced in Poland, which of course is also abjectly wrong, because the tooling didn't get moved from China to Poland. I had a guy from my club ask me, like, well, aren't all Revell Germany kits made in Poland? Yes, well, they are, but the 29 Ford and the Tomb Raider Jeep tooling, they're not in Poland. They're not Revell Germany tools. Just because a German holding company now owns the Revells, it doesn't mean that everything is Revell Germany. It just doesn't work that way. So, okay. So anyway, moving on, we got some flyers put out by Mobius. We'll thank Scott up at Elm City Hobbies for sending these to me, although they've since popped up everywhere else online since then. There are 3 kits that are going to be distributed, what Mobius is calling late May, early June. Now, whether or not they'll be affected by the production and shipping delays remains to be seen. However, Mobius obviously is not a company like Round 2 who's bringing out reissued kits every single month. Revell and Mobius sort of have the ability to reissue kits whenever they get around to them, rather than having a specifically, expected release dates the way Round 2 does. So first up, you're going to get a reissue of the 53 Hudson Hornet. This is the original automotive kit that Mobius did. Now, the trucks are technically automotive, I realize, and the Lone Star came out before the Hudson, but this is the first car, the first 1/25 scale car. So this obviously has sold out, and they've decided to reissue it again, bringing it back for anybody who happened to miss it in the first go-around. And then in the current F-Series line, the 65-66 kits, we shall see this, the 1966 F100 Custom Cab 4x4. So no huge surprise here. We were expecting this the whole time when we were told that there were 5 of the 66-65 trucks. One of them was obviously going to be a 4-wheel drive truck. Interesting to see this again is carrying the 352 V8, so that means that the only 65-66 kit out of the batch that's going to have the i6 in it is going to be the flare side kit. Everything else has had V8s. I'm appreciative of the fact that this kit, at least in the box art and everything about it, is shown in a actual F100 4x4 stance rather than the F250 Highboy that the 1970 truck got. So that's coming back out. And then the other one, and this is sort of a combination, if you will, of a few things here. For the later or earlier, depending on how you look at them, 67 through 72 F-Series, you have this, which is a 1967 F100 service bed. So this, unless it has a Model King attachment to it, that I am not seeing, this is what you normally get from the Model King kits, right? Dave Burkett pays for the tooling and gets the kit out first, and then Mobius usually then reissues it again with something under their own name. So this will be 2 sort of unique things. Well, one, it'll be the first time that the service bed is under a Mobius only name. Remember, the original service bed, that's a Model King kit that Mobius produced. And then this is also a 1967 Ford F100, and they had, prior to this kit, not done a 1967 yet. There was a 68, a 69, a 70, a 71, and a 72, but not a 67. So this, again, is showing a 352 V8. I'm guessing they feel there's enough 6-cylinder trucks out there floating around if you wanted one. Again, the service bed will fit onto any of the Mobius trucks that are equipped with an 8-foot bed. Also meaning that if you wanted to build a 67 pickup truck. You just need to swap out the long bed out of another one of the other choices you have. So there's that. And then this does not actually have a release date on it. It is just a tease of an upcoming kit. Now, we've talked about this before, but this is giving you sort of a sneak peek of the built test shot. And that is the 48-foot spread axle flatbed trailer that they're going to be doing. As we mentioned, this has 2 decks. It's going to have a cambered deck, which is the way the real thing would be. Aluminum flatbeds have a hump to them when they're not loaded. That way, when you load them, you're trying to basically center that weight, because the way a truck is weighed, it has so much it can weigh on the steer axle, so much it can weigh on what they call the drive axles, or the truck itself's axles, and so much that goes on the trailer axles. And in order to balance that weight between the trailer and the truck, you try to load things in the middle. That's why steel coils, when you see them going down the road, if there's a great big 45,000-pound steel coil, it's sitting right flat in the middle of the flatbed, rather than in the front or in the back. That's for weight distribution. And an aluminum flatbed will actually flex back to being flat with that much weight on it. If it didn't flex, it would, of course, just snap in half, and then you'd have a spectacular accident in the middle of the highway. But the thing that is interesting about this is they're going to give you either that cambered deck for an unloaded flatbed, or they're going to give you a flat deck so that you could build this with a load on it. They're giving you a whole bunch of ratchet spanners for the straps on the flatbed. I don't know if they are all designed to fit up front like that in the picture. That would be kind of silly. I'm hoping you can move them wherever you would need to, as it would obviously be very easy to make flatbed straps out of ribbon and plumb them through those ratchets, rather than it would be to go buy aftermarket parts. Pretty much the only parts of this kit that really share anything with the reefer and the van trailer at this point would be the actual axles and suspension and wheels and things like that, and probably the landing gear. That's probably out of the van trailer too. So this is a lot, 95% new tooling on this. So very fun to see when that coming. Again, there's no actual release date on that yet, but they are still producing, still in production, development. That was the word I was looking for. Still in development, so we'll keep an eye on that. So now we'll talk about kit releases. We have 4 overseas, 4 in the United States. So starting here in the United States, first up we got this from Revell, which is the official U.S. reboxing of the Land Rover Series 109 long wheelbase station wagon. This kit is as big almost as a Revell of Germany box. It is a big box, but it is a top and bottom box. One thing you'll notice about these when you see them in the stores, they're not shrunk wrap like a Revell kit normally would be. It has 4 of those little not half moon, but full like moon shaped circular adhesive things that they close Revell of Germany boxes with. You always see Revell of Germany boxes aren't shrunk wrap. They just have that little tape thing going around them to seal. This one has 4, but one on all 4 sides. And again, it is probably about the size of a Revell of Germany box. I think it's a little taller than a Revell of Germany box is. But again, it's not a U.S. size boxing. They did not cram it in a tiny box. So 2 thumbs up to Revell of Germany for not cramming that thing in there. I'm not sure where exactly the kit is being assembled. Obviously, it's produced in Poland, but I'm not sure if they were sent here and done, or if they were done in Germany and then shipped over here in boxes. Because a case of these is like 18 of them instead of 12, like it would be normally, because they are a longer, narrower box. But for anybody who's waiting on that, because this is going to be nominally a couple bucks cheaper than getting the Revell of Germany one, that is out there for you. And then going over to round 2, the 3 February releases for this month. First up from MPC, you have this, the 1976 Dodge Dart. Yay! There was a lot of talk about this after it was announced, because it has the Hang 10 graphics in it for the first time, and I also think this brings back these weird sort of Pontiac wheels as well. As far as the honeycomb style wheels, I don't think the 75 had those in it. I mean, you could argue about the fact that Pontiac wheels are on a Dodge here. Okay. But, other than that, I think these two, the 75 and the 76, are pretty much the same. in terms of the kit contents, because it's a 3-in-1. It's a stock custom or street machine and drag kit, and obviously new decals, and it says it includes the figure and trophy. But from what I was told, the 75 has the figure and trophy in it too. They're just not called out, and so that's back out there if you're interested in it. Over at AMT, the 2 kits for this month are the 69 Plymouth GTX Pro Street. So this, of course, is a reissue of the kit from the early to mid 1990s and retro box art that it never really had. Nothing new about this at all, other than I believe there might be pad printed tires in this that obviously were not done back in the day originally. And the other one is this, the GMC General tractor trailer Coca-Cola kit. I saw some people lamenting the fact that this doesn't have actual like trucking company decals in it. It just has Coca-Cola decals in it. It does come with a plethora of license plates, like a good dozen or so of them. So you can do a lot of things with this. I'm sure if you're into AMT, MPC truck kits that have been released in the last 12 years since Round 2 started producing AMT, MPC kits, that you have some trucking decals laying around. But this particular kit, I don't think has been out since 2006. Was the last time the General was released. So I'm pretty sure the GMC General got a Round 2 RC2 era, or I said not Round 2, but a Racing Champions RC2 era release, or maybe it was right before that. And then the Chevy Bison would be, I think, the thing that has now been not released for long. So it'll be interesting to see if they do release the Bison, probably depending on how well the General sells. They've done both the GMC and the Chevy versions of the Titan and the Astro. So it's not out of the realm possibility that they could release it. I mean, the only real difference between a General and a Bison is the grill, GMC versus Chevy. So that's back out there. I mean, I'm happy. I don't really care about the Coca-Cola decals being the only thing in there. It really doesn't matter to me. If you want a GMC General and you don't want to buy an older one in the hopes that you don't get a warped one, because some of those sort of 80s, 90s kits were famous for being having the hood, especially being warped. So hopefully they've addressed that in these. I haven't seen any complaints about it yet, but then it just came back out. So hopefully that is not an issue with these. So going over to Japan with one set of wheels from Fujimi this week, and these are the 18-inch Zeit wheels. I'm trying to think if they've got an actual name beyond Zeit here. Let me take a peek. And nope, that would be it. Zeit wheels. So those are back out there. Again, these are just molded in sort of a neutral gray. They are not chromed or anything else like that, so keep that in mind when you're buying them. And then we have 3 releases from Aoshima this week as well. A couple of, well, they're all reissues, but a couple of these are just straight reissues. First up, you have this, the 2002 Nissan Skyline R34 kit is getting another run out there. And then also with that, you get the 2014, or not with it, but along with it, while we're talking about GTR kits, you get the 2014 Nissan GTR Pure Edition. That is a JDM only spec. Does not come with the left-hand drive parts. And then last but not least for this video, you have the reissue of the Lamborghini Huracan. So the Lamborghini Huracan is the rebox into the new supercar lineup. So this is now kit number 3, where the original one was number 4. And this has this lime green car in the box. The last issue had a white car in the box. That's how you can sort of tell them apart. The typeface for the Lamborghini Huracan is also a little bit different, but other than that, the kit's the same. Nothing new about it. Just putting it into another marketing line. So, all right, if you say so. Anyway, guys, that wraps up this one. We hope you guys had a great weekend, and we'll see you guys on the other side.